Hello, welcome to PC Mag Live. I'm Dan Costa. He is Sasha Segan, and we've got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about the top tech news. We're going to pull one thing off the shelf and show it to you live on camera, and we're going to answer some of your reader questions. Sasha, let's get straight to the news. The big news that broke last night: Comcast is buying Time Warner Cable for $45 billion. This is going to make them the biggest cable operator in the country, but they say this is not going to be anti-competitive because there is already no competition in the American cable market, and they're kind of right.
Yeah, I mean, they're completely right. You see consumer advocates going all berserk over this, but it's a battle that's already been lost. It's a battle that was lost a long time ago. These are two companies which don't really overlap or compete against each other, merging to become one larger company that will have the same monopoly power in the cable industry in its areas, with the same low levels of customer service, high prices, but it won't make things worse. The one way it can make things worse, though, because consumer advocates are trying to find a dark cloud in this, is that this large cable company will now have more power to control its content agreements with cable channels and to get more money out of the content providers. But to me, as a consumer, this just seems like rich people fighting rich people. Like, I'm not sure I care about that.
And the fundamental point is that, and this is the thing that people don't realize, is that in every area that Comcast is operating in, there is no Time Warner.
Right.
And everywhere there's Time Warner, there is no Comcast. So now it's really a billing question more than anything else.
Now, there is a possible silver lining, which is that if Comcast really wants to do this deal, now is the time for the FCC to demand conditions. And these conditions could be up to anything, including fixing competitiveness in the cable industry. I mean, if they demand that Comcast open up its lines to competitors in terms of internet service in exchange for absorbing Time Warner, well, they'd never say yes to that, and they'd complain, oh, Verizon Fios doesn't have to do that, and et cetera, et cetera. But let's everybody think, what can we get out of these people in exchange for letting them merge their behemoth with the other behemoth?
Yeah, that is that's some optimism that we rarely hear from you. And I think it's a cause that's worth taking up because it is an opportunity that is just opening up. Speaking of another behemoth, Verizon is introducing its More Everything plans, which, if you go down the list of all the different ways that they're doing this, it really is just a price reduction on their existing plans. It's going to make them more competitive with AT&T and T-Mobile and Sprint, because Verizon's always been a little bit pricier than the others.
Yeah, T-Mobile has completely rocked the mobile phone industry in the past year. They brought down prices, they killed contracts, they're trying to kill subsidies, and now they're paying other carriers early termination fees to get people to switch. And guess what? A maverick actually has an effect on the industry. AT&T had to bring their prices down, and now Verizon's doing something a little sneaky here. They're bringing their prices down, but primarily for people who are on their Edge plan, which are the people paying full price for phones over a 24-month period, and that also allows you to upgrade your phone every year, et cetera, et cetera. But this is part of the move to get rid of phone subsidies in exchange for lower monthly fees, which is something that T-Mobile is really pioneering. That said, it does make plans a little cheaper for people who do want this Verizon Edge thing, and Verizon is still the most expensive carrier. That's not going to change. It's part of Verizon's brand. They say they're giving you Cadillac service for Cadillac prices.
Yeah, it's great, but it is that you're starting to see that shift more significantly away from subsidized phones, away from contracts, towards pay-as-you-go. We think that's a good thing. Yeah. We'd like to have that flexibility. Also in the news today, Angry Birds Stella has been released. It's coming this fall. It hasn't been released. It's coming this fall. It is a girl-themed Angry Birds. I guess this is important. I mean, we just got over Flappy Bird's demise. Now Angry Birds Stella is going to come out.
We clearly need a bird in our hearts.
Yeah.
We need to put a bird on it. There needs to be a bird somewhere for us to wish for and hope for on our smartphones and tablets, and Rovio will provide. And I mean, looking at this versus Flappy Bird just makes me think about how some people and some companies are ready for success and some aren't, and how poor Dong Nguyen was just so overwhelmed by what happened with his app that he practically went into hiding, whereas Rovio seems to have, to steal a march from SoftBank, a 300-year plan for total bird domination.
Yeah, they have gotten an amazing amount of mileage out of a pretty simple game. And not an easy game. It's more complex than it seems, but game theory and so forth. They've gotten a lot more mileage out of this than I thought they would, and it will continue into the fall with Stella. Let's move on to a reader question now. This question simultaneously came in from Cheyenne on one of our YouTube sections, and also from John Dvorak, who asked this question in his column yesterday. And they both want to know where they can get an unlocked smartphone for under $100. It's a fair question.
It's a fair question.
But it is answerable.
It is possible. Now, the deal is you cannot get a good unlocked smartphone for $100 yet. Give the industry 2 or 3 years. But there are some unlocked Android-powered smartphones you can get for under $100. No contract. They work on AT&T, T-Mobile, or any of the smaller carriers that use those networks. If you go onto Amazon, you'll find the Blue Advance 4.0 for $99, the Blue Dash for $67, also the Huawei Y201 and Y210, both for around $90. These are basic entry-level Android phones. They're not particularly fast, but they run all the Android apps, and they are unlocked. So the under $100 smartphone landscape, it's coming. It's just starting. We're starting to see the beginning of the wave this year. 2 years from now, we will see decent unlocked smartphones for under $100.
And these are really the feature phone replacements. I mean, there were feature phones and smartphones. Now everybody's moving to smartphones. This is that entry-level smartphone device. That category did not exist 2 years ago. Now it does, but again, it's very early on.
Yep.
Let's move on to one cool thing. We test thousands of products here in the lab in New York City every year. Every day we take one thing off the shelf and show it to you live on air. Today that thing is the Ithlete Finger Sensor, which Sasha is demoing right now. It's $70, and this is a device that monitors your heart rate variability to tell you what kind of exercise and what kind of workout you should do on that day. It's kind of a neat device. It connects to your iOS device, your iPhone or your iPad, and it's neat. I mean, I have not tried it. I imagine if I put it on, it would just say I need to work out more.
There's something a little voodoo about this device where first you calibrate it by wearing it, by taking measurements every morning for a week. And then supposedly when you take a measurement in the morning, it can predict how healthy you are that day and how hard you can work out before you really break yourself. Yeah. It's for people who consider themselves athletes, people who consider themselves serious fitness people in training so that they don't blow a fuse.
And Jill Duffy tested it out, and she said that on the few nights that she didn't have a good night's sleep or a restful night, she actually got more negative results and had more heart rate variability when she used the sensor. So she likes it. She's got a full review up on PCMag.com right now. You can check that out. And that is our cool thing. Thank you for joining us. That is PC Mag Live for today. Please join us tomorrow for a brand new show and send us your questions. Leave them in the YouTube comments section. Leave them on Facebook. Send us an email if you must. That's PC Mag Live.